Hello and welcome to another Crystal Confab. It might not feel like it to the listeners, but for the Confabbers, it's been a while since our last meeting because we were working ahead to account for some travels. And Kyle, our world traveler, has just returned from gallivanting throughout Thailand. Welcome back, Kyle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for accommodating and allowing me to have a proper break. It was really nice to take some time out with my husband. It was his 60th birthday. We went to our favorite place in the world and went to new places that we haven't been in our favorite place. So it was really great to explore, relax, and experience all of that wonder.
Amazing. And I will say before we talk about our crystal for today, while you were having a holiday, I was hard working all the last weekend, but got to meet some of our listeners of the Crystal Confab who say that they love listening every week. My mind is a sieve when it comes to names, so I've already forgotten the names, but I met a lovely couple and then another lovely individual who both said, "Hello, are you Adam? Do the confab with Kyle?" And we love it. We listen to it. So thank you very much for everyone who does. We sit here and have a little chat every week about a crystal. We kind of hope that someone's actually listening. So we really appreciate getting that feedback and meeting people as well.
So cool. So cool. I find it weird that we speak into the void and then these people respond and are appreciating it. I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to dive into this interesting one?
We are. This week we're looking at Leopardskin Jasper, and I'm really intrigued because of the patterns you find on this stone. It is a stone that you kind of find is, I don't know, it's there. Everyone knows about it, but no one really gives it much attention. So we're hoping to spotlight it this week. But what creates those different kind of patterns in it, Nicholas?
Yeah, so this week we're talking about one of those pesky Jaspers that isn't a Jasper. Um, and there's some debate, but I think we can very safely lean on some we'll say broad umbrellas geologically. What we have is a type of spherulitic or orbicular rhyolite. So rhyolites are igneous rocks. They form extrusively. Think about, the same process that forms obsidian. And in fact, that molten rock has more or less the same composition as obsidian. It just cools a little bit more slowly. In the case of something like our leopardskin jasper, that has those little orbicules or spherules in it, those little speckles and dots. In some cases, what we have are altered. I'm going to speak geologies at you, but I promise to break it down. But it is altered, silicified, spherulitic, rhyolitic tuff. So let's do this piece by piece. So tuff is going to be the kind of igneous rock that accretes from ash and other things that are a result of the initial eruption. It's rhyolitic in composition, which tells us that it is in the same kind of family, the same molten magma soup, if you will, that gives rise to granite, which becomes lava and can be um, uh, rhyolite and obsidian. So it's rich in silica and the things that become feldspars. It is a denser kind of lava, but produces usually lighter colored minerals. And it goes through a type of alteration wherein silica rich stuff comes in and replaces other things. Tuff is really porous, and when it forms, it's going to have almost a spongy kind of texture that silicon can sink into and give us a more solid appearance. Over time, some of those bits interact, they alter, it produces the patterns and colors that we see. But it all starts with that volcanic eruption and a lot of really good timing in the case of its formation.
So, although an obsidian doesn't actually have any kind of crystalline structure, this because it's being replaced by that silica or silicon dioxide, will the crystal will have a bit of structure to it?
Oh, lots. Yeah. So think of this more like a much finer grained granite rather than being like an obsidian. We can think of a spectrum of what we call phaneritic textures, things that have really good crystal grain sizes in igneous rocks. That would be our pegmatites, our granites, and then we get into our aphanitic textures, which are really, really fine grained. That's going to be the majority of our rhyolites. And then we get to things that are so fine grained they have no crystals at all, which is going to be obsidian at the far end of the spectrum.
Mm. And this is one thing I've just realised. I'm not too sure where Leopardskin Jasper is normally located. Is there various locations? Is it one place in the world it's coming from?
A lot of it comes out of Mexico. We also see some coming from Peru. There are, we'll say, spherulitic and orbicular jasper, spherulitic and orbicular rhyolites from other places that don't quite have the same appearance as the leopard skin jasper. But Kyle, do you know of any other spots where it comes out of the earth?
Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of any. I don't know if India is coming to me for a reason or not. It could be for something else. It could just be Rhyolite as a registered place. It comes up so often.
And this is a stone that you really love to work with to kind of, I guess you're kind of tuning in a bit to that big cat energy. Yeah, Kyle?
You can definitely call it the big cat vibe with the leopard skin connection. These are the only two pieces I have. I got them from you, I don't know how many years ago, and I will connect and grab them and hold them as a pair whenever I need to. I've looked and picked up pieces throughout the last decade or so, and I've never been drawn to get any more. And for me, that unlocking of the hunter, because I'm such a Sagittarian, which we've talked about before, having 5 placements means I like to embody that energy as much as possible. But I have always been a look at that, I want that, I'm going to go after that. And for me, it kind of just enhances that, but it allows it to be more balanced, more patient, more less rushed, more direct, more concise. Like it just helps me to hone what's already within. It helps me to embody what I know I already have, and sometimes I just lose touch with it. Does that make sense? It's more or less a reminder, and that's why I feel like I haven't needed to add any more to my collection, work with anymore. I just get to points in my life where it's like I'm losing a little bit of direction. I thought I was going after something. Maybe I need something else. And that's where it comes into effect. Wants, needs, desires. And how am I going after each of those? How much do I need? Want. How much do I need a want? How much do I want a need? How much do I desire something? Where is it coming from? And it allows me to, as I've gotten older, know what I do want, know what I do need, know what I do require. And when I desire something, why not go after it, right? Coming back from a holiday and talking about allowing yourself space to go and do things that make you happy, that make you feel good, that rebalance and recalibrate who you are. And especially with a partner, I went with my husband. We both work full time. We're both busy people taking care of other people. And to be able to take a break once a year, because that's all it is, generally once a year, to replenish that energy, give to us because we want it, we need it, we know it's good for us. And I can come back refreshed, I can go back more clear, more enthusiastic to do all the other stuff, right? It's not that you have to give in to desire, wants, needs. It's to know that one thing supports another, one thing generally overrides another in importance. Hunger, right? The need for water and air. These are things that we do need. But I also like to eat delicious food. So when I'm hungry, I'm going to add a bit of this, add a bit of that, right? I'm allowed to make something more because I'm doing it. I'm going after it. And that's our life as well. I want to do something with my career. So I'm going to hunt, go after it. But how do I go after it? What do I have at my disposal? What skills do I have? What path am I already on? How do I need to divert? And I think leopards are very embodying of living their own life in their own way. They're kind of solitary. They take care of their own needs. They're beautiful. They're enigmatic. They have this quality of power and poise. And I think a good hunter embodies that power, poise, precision, really going after things for a reason, not like game hunting or hunting for sport, hunting for food and hunting to supply a village, right? There are different levels in which we hunt. There are different ways in which we can go after things. And I think a little bit of Leopardskin Jasper goes a long way in helping you to embody a better version of the hunter. Be less driven by greed, be less driven by showing off, be less driven by taking more than you actually need, right? I think it's a really great lesson of having enough and knowing that you're allowed to have your own space, your own wants, your own things that make you feel better. And we don't have to be flashy about it. I think like these sort of neutral, earthy tones and that like ability to almost disappear into the background as my camera decides to go blurry as I do that, I think is a really important thing. Like you can be powerful, incredible, hunting, going after things, and some people will not even notice that you're there, right? And then there'll be others that go, oh my God, that's beautiful, that's amazing, I want some of that. And others will be like, oh my God, that's scary, keep you away from me. So embody whoever you are, bring that to the fore, go after things, don't be afraid in chasing, hunting, wanting, but know why you want it, know why you're going after it, know where it's taking you next. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, definitely. One thing I've found really interesting about animals is that they, in general, if an animal is a predator or a hunter, their eyes will face forward, whereas if they're prey, they're on the side, type of thing. And I was thinking as you were talking that often, we live in a world of distractions, and everyone's trying to distract us to pay attention to something else or buy something or do something or that type of thing. Do you think the energy of this crystal would be really great for people that do get a little bit easily distracted and maybe need to bring their eyes from here to focus on one particular goal?
1000%. I am like squirrel, so easily distracted. Like I have that fully within me. And this is where, as I've gotten older, that focus, being satisfied with what you have or what you've gone after or what you've done and not needing any more, not needing any more than what you've got, or not needing praise, not needing attention for it, not needing anything else, right? It's about you and it's about what's good for you. And when you're able to put yourself first, you're able to be in your own power so much better.
I love that as well. And do you think also, Nicholas, because of like it's got these fiery origins of a volcano, but then it has kind of settled down to these real earthy colors and that type of thing, it kind of helps us contain that fire, but contain that fire in a disciplined way?
You know, definitely the way that we have these kind of radial aggregates that metamorphose, that change on the exterior rim. It creates these reaction rims of varying mineral content that are like little containers. We could liken them to a couple of other things, but I can certainly see how that could be a kind of boundary. Boundaries are really helpful. They're useful. They contain our focus, our energy. They allow us to have a very centering effect because they nucleate out from a single point as well. I think we also get that kind of drawing inwards. I have a friend in South Florida, Margaret Lembo. She's written a few books on crystals. And in one of her books, she talks about this as being a stone for stalking your most authentic self. And I think that like really parallels what Kyle's talking about too, because if you don't know what you want or need authentically, how can you go about it? And it's about kind of hunting that first before you can go hunt the rest.
I love that phrase. That's absolutely amazing. I want to take a bit of a change of subject in another way that I really love to work with Leopardskin Jasper. So, fun fact, although my first works were a bunch of crystal meditations and then my book Crystal Connection, so I was kind of like one of the crystal guys. I had this privilege in my life where I lived in New York for 6 months, and for that 6 months I couldn't work. I didn't have the right visa. So that was a kind of turning point in my life where I got to decide, what do I actually want to do with my life? And I actually wanted to be an author and a teacher, but I actually started working on an animal book and the wisdom that we get for animals. And so any crystal that kind of connects to animals, I have an extra special place in my heart for as well. I find it really interesting that humans think we're the most evolved species. We've got the internet that we can watch and listen to these videos on. We can record these things. We've got electricity. We've got all these amazing things. But if we were to put any of us out into the jungle for a few days, we probably wouldn't do so well. So, although we think we are good in some environments, in other environments we may not be. And this is where and we see this throughout the world in many indigenous cultures, have looked to the teachings of animals for different guidance because they're all thriving in the world in their own separate way. We know that big cats bring in that kind of discipline, they bring in that independence, and whether it be the leopard or the jaguar or the lion or the tiger or the snow leopard or so on, they, apart from the lions, which are obviously not, that are group cats, they all are about that self-empowerment in that way. But we also know, sadly, that most of our big cats all around the world are endangered. And I think this is a really great time to kind of connect with their wisdom. And I remember once I did a volunteer job when I lived in Toronto at the Toronto Zoo. And the head instructor there told me that people will only protect what they love. And I think this is a really great amulet to help us connect back with the wisdom of leopard or any of the other big cats. I just, a simple guided meditation you can take yourself through, or I guess a visualization, is holding a piece of leopard skin jasper, closing your eyes, visualizing a leopard, or if you're drawn to another big cat, I think this can be a gateway to any of the big cats. And then, seeing that cat in front of you and saying, is there anything I need to know right now? Do you have any messages for me? And just allowing that experience to unravel however it does. And I remember when I kind of was guided to do this when I was 17, 18 with one of my first spiritual teachers. And I said, I've got an active imagination. Aren't I just making this stuff up of whatever this leopard's saying to me? And what she explained to me is there is a million, billion, trillion things that leopard could say or could take you on. But why did that come to you? There's got to be a reason for that. And as long as you kind of settle down the mind and don't have too many distractions coming in to start off with, and just start from a neutral blank canvas, that's coming in, whether it's your imagination, your subconscious, or your unconscious, or a higher self, or something higher than you, bringing that through, allow that to happen. And I think connecting with a big cat guide can help you in many different things, like what Kyle talked about. And I love that, hunting your own authentic self. That kind of guidance can be really powerful. And as we start to value the role the big cats can play on a spiritual level for us, hopefully that can ripple out and we actually respect and honor the fact that we need to have these big cats to remain on the earth. And so even, in my book, I talk about doing things like creating conservation grids. And you could make ones for big cats with your Leopardskin Jasper and use other things like tiger's eye and lion skin, and all the ones that kind of connect to those, cheetah agate, those that kind of connect to the big cats in that type of way. Pair it with a bit of black onyx, which is good for protection at night, and unikite, which is good for procreation and conservation, and breeding programs and things like that. Is that us all making a grid to protect big cats going to save them? No, there's other things we can do in our lives to, donate, or making wise choices depending on where you live in the world, can help that as well. But I think this is a great crystal for us to value this group of animals. There are other crystals that help us connect with other animals, as well. Realize their value in the ecosystems, realize the value in our spiritual guidance, and realize that it is, as the stewards of this planet, I think the stone can be a real powerful amulet to help us keep focus on what we're here to do and to protect other species as well. So I love it for working in that kind of realm as well. But I know you use it for a slightly different reason, Nicholas. How do you like to work with this crystal?
This is definitely one of my unsung heroes of the mineral kingdom that I've had some really great breakthroughs with. It's not flashy, it's not iridescent or really brightly colored, so it's sometimes a hard sell for folks until they have a set of circumstances that very uniquely matches this stone. So I talked a little bit earlier about those orbicules and spherules and the way they stack, and we might think of them as little containers because they've got that rim that reacts to its exterior and changes color and then has a different composition on the inside. But we can also take a step back and look at the way they all interconnect. And I like to think of them as cogs in a great machine. And for me, this has become a stone that symbolizes divine timing, because only when we get the timing right can things kind of sort of fall into place. It doesn't mean we're not putting energy into the machine. We do have to regulate it. But if we keep all of the parts and pieces working, things run so much more smoothly in our life. So I was first introduced to this stone when I was going through my gemstone therapy training. And it sounds like gemstone therapy should mean the same thing as crystal healing. And sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. We often use these really high quality gemstone spheres. It's easiest to string them up in bead form like this, but I have a couple of these Leopardskin Jasper necklaces because I found it just so much of a game changer. Once upon a time, I had a corporate job. I worked in sales, doing luxury retail, managing a multi-million-dollar store, training other folks in the region, training like my boss's boss when she had a new one, because I was the store she could come to that could analyze the numbers, knew all the stuff, and she knew that I would have it covered. So I frequently did. But there was something about knowing a process and trusting a process are two different things. Training people in their individual parts, but training them to work in the bigger picture also very different. And it's about getting all of these smaller pieces to collaborate, to coordinate, to cooperate. And that's for me what Leopardskin Jasper does. On a surface level, the longer we work with it, the more it seems to kind of saturate our energy field, the more it feels like stuff just comes to us. I've heard a lot of people talk about using it for attracting positive influences in their lives, or attracting opportunities for what they really need, sometimes also just the things they want or desire. But I think it goes so much deeper than this. And in some spiritual teachings, we find this concept of the law of divine compensation. It's kind of related to the kind of American metaphysical religious movement at large, where we see things like the miracle stuff and the law of attraction, and a lot of that doesn't really appeal to me where I'm at in my life. But this idea that we never really lose a miracle, we never really lose an opportunity, it's just held in sacred trust, that really resonates with the energy of Leopardskin Jasper. There'd be times when I was trying like hell to manifest opportunity. When I worked in sales, it meant a very large sale, because I was trying to turn things around on the daily level. So one day didn't become 2 days, didn't become three, didn't become a week, didn't become a big trend that we had a harder time pulling ourselves out of a rut. And when you can surrender and allow things to flow and really just resonate with your most authentic self, and let yourself be part of the bigger fabric of stuff, the universe generally doesn't want to dump a whole lot of crap on you every day. Most of the time, as long as you're a relatively decent human being, I'd say the universe is attempting to bring you stuff that is useful, that is helpful, that is beneficial. But it's so easy for us to block that. It's so easy for us to kind of throw sand in the gears of the cosmic mechanism because we aren't willing to follow through on our end, or we don't believe that we're worthy, or we have hangups about hard work, we have expectations about how it's going to go. But if we can let go of those things, and if we allow Leopardskin Jasper to maybe shine a light on those gears that need a little bit more oiling, or need to be dusted or replaced, then we can step back. And when we've done the work to put something in motion, the universe is going to bring the end result to us. And so it becomes this beautiful interplay of giving out and receiving back. And as long as we do that with reciprocity, as long as we do it respectfully, as long as we're holding up our end of the bargain, I've never been let down by Leopardskin Jasper. And it'll be one of those things where it's the end of the fiscal month, and I don't think we're going to make it by Sunday. We're just not going to make it. That's the end of our fiscal week in my former career. And, I'd be standing there and just putting it out into the universe, and walk someone who wants to spend, I don't know, 50 or 60 times what the average consumer does. And we would make our entire week from that one moment. And the way it happened over and over and over again when wearing Leopardskin Jasper, I learned to trust the process. It doesn't make things happen effortlessly, but it does kind of magnify the efforts we put out into the world, and reminds us that if we know ourselves, if we come from that place of authenticity, then we're going to be able to get authentic end results.
So, just doing a weekend of tarot readings, a lot of questions that come up is kind of, I've found people would ask about that divine timing. They might be wondering, when's the right person to maybe take the plunge and ask this person out? Or when's the best time to have this conversation with someone, that I'm in a relationship with and there's a bit of an issue? Or when should I ask for a promotion? All those types of things. Do you feel with Leopardskin Jasper, is it a case of wearing it and just having its energy support and guide you and then giving a bit of trust? Or is there anything in particular you'd recommend people do with it, Nicholas?
So there are a couple ways that we can think about this. If we have an impression that our life is out of sync in some way already, the most microscopic level to the biggest one, we can use Leopardskin Jasper to invite a return of that rhythm. So if you've got, a strand of beads like this, or a bracelet or pendant, you can take it on and off at regular intervals and create this kind of energetic movement in your field. So, bring it to the heart, place it on your body, count to 10, take it off, set it down, count to 10, place it back on to the count of 10, or whatever your count might be. Maybe it's four breaths on the in count, and vice versa, that kind of instill that sense of rhythm. If it's more a case of we don't know when the right opportunity is, I think what we really want to do is saturate our energy field with it. Get it everywhere, wear it, carry a piece with you, bring it to bed, cleanse it very frequently, but have it going on a regular basis. The other thing we could do to kind of saturate the energy field, and this is a technique that I actually received from the stone itself. If you have two pieces of it, and all you need are two, you can do a little tune up of your energy fields. The chakra model works well for a lot of folks, so you could use that and place one at the crown and one at the root for a count of maybe 30 seconds, and then bring it to the next two chakras inwards. That'd be your brow and your sacral, and the next two inwards, your solar plexus and your throat, until you end at the heart, and then just keep them there together. And it's like infusing that energy in your entire field and just getting it super saturated in those kind of energetic doorways or windows that the chakras might represent. And then go do the thing. I think the real message when we don't know when the time is, it's probably now. If you've thought about it this much, the time is now. So go do it.
I love that. And kind of exploring a little bit more about those different cogs in the wheel from the patterning on the crystal. The weekend before, I was at a convention where I had 24 of my team or my customers together, and sometimes it felt like I was trying to herd cats. It was rather challenging. So do you think this could also be a crystal that when you're trying to coordinate people and get everyone in a, their eyes all forward in the same direction, this could be a good crystal for those situations as well, Nicholas?
Absolutely. When in my corporate job, a big part of what I did was leading others. In holiday season, our team was almost double what it was in our smallest time of year. So, there might be times that I'd have in a very small space 12 or 16 people, and we had to operate like a well-oiled machine to get every piece of that process taken care of, to ensure that every customer's needs were met, that every piece of product was shelved exactly where it needed to be. People were on breaks, people were coming and going at the right time. This was a stone that always helped me keep things as smooth as possible. And I say that knowing that human beings will always be human beings. So it also gives you grace and adaptability when things aren't ideal, when they're not perfect, because real life is messy. And if you examine the shape of the orbicules in the stone, you see most of them are not perfect spheres. They're kind of messy. And yet it still has that coordinating effect. So it reminds you to just lead with grace, and the rest tends to follow.
Carl, you mentioned before that you've got just those two little pieces that you hold in your hands. Are you someone who just likes to sit with them and hold them in your hands, or do you have any activities or actions people can take with Leopardskin Jasper?
There's a few, but I just want to just touch on the fact that it so makes sense as to another reason why I don't necessarily need as much is I think a decade in managing cafes and managing people front and back of house, coordinating rosters, breaks, problem solving things, making coffee, like doing all of that all at once, it makes sense as to like I've done that. Like it has been a learned experience that I have. I have a very relatable to that with you, Nicholas, and having to train people, keep an eye on things, and make sure every day runs perfectly, especially when you've got big eyes watching over you. For me, it's about sitting and asking the question. Like when I'm sitting and holding these, I ask myself the question: what do I need? Why do I want it? Like, can I get the answer to myself now? Is it something simple? Is it something more complex? It's about just taking the moment to ask the question, to feel into the need, the desire, the want. Sometimes I'll do a bit of automatic writing, that like conversation with the cat thing that you're talking about. Like sometimes just letting the pen put it onto the paper can be really useful for kind of processing what's coming. But generally, it's about just sitting, being somewhere, generally outdoors or in the sunshine for me, somewhere natural will really help. And giving at least 10-15 minutes to like not just asking the question and then getting up and walking off. Like, no, we don't do that. We sit, we listen, we be demure, and we wait for the answers to come, because they will. Sometimes it'll be a whisper, sometimes it'll be a shout, sometimes it'll be a feeling, sometimes it will be a cog falling into place or falling out and realizing that's the one that needs replacing. It's like this unexpected inspiration that's really beautiful, I think, from the way it comes to us.
Before we wrap up this week's confab, I wanted to kind of go on a bit of a tangent, and you brought the idea up. Kyle, you said, you feel because of what Leopardskin Jasper offers us as individuals, and that's already a skill set that you've kind of got, that you don't really need this crystal. And for me, I know, hunt me down and stone me to death, but fluorites do absolutely nothing for me. I appreciate that they're beautiful. I love all the different colors they come in, and rainbow fluorite, stunning. But I'm also, I've got my Saturn is in Virgo, so I'm highly organized. I've run my life in like 15-minute blocks. And so the fact that fluorite grows in this cubic nature and is very much about getting our life into structure, I'm like, I just don't need it. It's the same as sodalite and pyrite, which also, it seems cubic crystals do nothing for me because they have nothing else to add to me. Have you found, Nicholas, that there are any crystal like that you're like, I appreciate it, but I just don't really need it in my life?
I think I'd probably have to sit down and think about this one. I have stones that I've learned the lesson by working with them that I no longer necessarily lean on for support. I keep them around because they're old friends. Like, we've been in the trenches together, we know how it's going, but I don't necessarily have to wear it to make the progress anymore.
Mm.
So, we'll see. Maybe I'll do some homework and see if I can find a stone that feels like it's just not the thing that I need.
Yeah. Carl, do you have any others?
I would say there's a couple. Vanadinite is one that I think I have a lot of that kind of fieriness, so I don't really work with it too much because I feel like it it pushes me when I don't need pushing, if that makes sense. When I need a little bit of organization to what I'm creating, I find Vanadinite quite helpful. But as a like creative, I generally find really structured things, sometimes food. But fluorite I do need because mentally I'm not organized. So I actually have a lot of fluorite in a lot of different colors from a lot of different places, and I find myself very drawn to fluorite quite often.
Yeah. One point on vanadinite, I find it really good for helping us to have high energy by conserving our energy. And one thing I've learned throughout our confabs is that you are really good most of the time at taking rest when your body needs a rest and being mindful of where you place your energy. So you kind of got that lesson nailed. So again, maybe you don't need that crystal. Yeah, interesting. It's just a thought that came up as you shared that. And I'd love everyone to share in the comments. Is there a crystal that doesn't do it for you? And just like sometimes we don't need something, that's why we're not drawn to it. But hopefully, maybe we've awoken your need for the amazing Leopardskin Jasper this week. As we said, it's a stone that does kind of linger in the darkness sometimes and doesn't get the attention it deserves. But we hope that you've kind of found a new appreciation for it this week. We'll be back next week when we dive into another amazing gift from Mother Earth. Until then, take care and blessed be.